Okay, Jennifer doesn't hear anything. Okay. Let's see here.
Hold on real quick. There we go.
Caitlin, good.
Is Jennifer okay now?
Yeah. Jennifer, can you hear us now? Let me type in. Can you hear us now? Okay, let's give Jennifer just a minute here to see if we can get audio working.
Okay.
Jennifer might have called in on the, oh, she's good now. Okay, excellent.
Sweet.
Thanks for confirming, Jennifer. Okay. So let me just take a quick peek on the list here, make sure we have everybody today. So let me go to my file here. Okay, everybody. So we have leads and supervisors on today's call. So it looks like we have Lisa, Jill, we have you. Okay, Jana, Caitlin. All right. Looks like Laura, we have you. Shelley. Okay, Jennifer. Okay, looks like we may be missing a couple of people, but what we'll do here is Scott is going to be recording this call for us, so we can send out the link for today's session, so we can have those individuals go back and provide us some additional feedback. So welcome, everybody. Summit Leads and Supervisors team. Thank you for joining us today. As we have noted, we've muted everybody, but a couple of housekeeping. If you do want to speak up, just go ahead and raise your hand in the, if you are in the bottom section, if you wave your mouse and you click on participants, and then at the bottom toolbar, you have invite, mute me, and then 3 dots. You can click raise your hand. So it'll show up this way in the participants. You can see I just raised my hand. Also, feel free to add in the chat box. I will be monitoring today. This is Kasha Heiser, Director of Human Resources. So I will be monitoring feedback as Scott facilitates today's presentation. So today we will be going through the annual review process. We have heard just some feedback, and we want to make sure that we hear everything that you're telling us on the process so that we are able to improve it. So real quick, Scott, if you could just advance back to slide 2, I want to introduce you. So everybody knows me over here, so I wanted to give you a new voice to listen to. So Scott Cavens, SPHR, he is our HR manager here at Concurrent HRO. So new voice and new perspective for everyone. So you can see a different view of HR and how we can work through this annual review process. So you can see next slide, Scott, we're kind of doing this in a PowerPoint so that we can really get a roundtable going. So you'll see Scott will be providing feedback as we receive your feedback throughout this, adding comments into the presentation so that we really have this interactive process. We will be asking for you to be raising your hands, adding feedback in the chat, and then using your annotative tool, which Scott will go over here in just a minute, so that you can interact with our slides. So as I mentioned today, we will be reviewing Summit's annual performance review process, going through the forms, the process, really critiquing the effectiveness of the APR. What we really want today is to see what works for you, what does not work, your thoughts on how the process can be improved. And I know throughout your meetings, we have talked about the 9 lies about work. So, as Scott mentioned in his email to you all today through the invite, we will be drawing inspiration from the 9 lies about work and how it works with the annual review process. Okay, on the next slide, feel free to, especially, when we have a pause, we can unmute everybody, speak freely, chat freely, raise your hand freely, be open and honest about this process. So note that we, of course, want the leads and the supervisors. We want to hear your feedback today. So we have kept the directors and Jeff out of this conversation. Just so you know, we'll kind of give an overview report and recommendation after we are done with today's sessions to make the process better. So feel secure in honest feedback, and just know we need your thoughts and feelings on the performance review process in order to make it better. Okay, so now you have heard enough from me. I will go ahead and turn it over to Scott. Scott will dive into today's agenda and start walking through the evaluations with you.
Thank you very much, Kasha. And hello, everybody. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you also just in advance for your honesty and being straightforward. As Kasha said, this is just between us. We will, of course, will be relaying an overview of the conversation to Jeff, but what we want to do, what we want to take away from this is what works best, what doesn't work, and how we can construct a better annual performance review process. So today's agenda, as you see, first thing we're going to do, we're going to define an annual performance review process. And how we do that, of course, is from the HR standpoint. What is an annual performance review process? Okay, in the HR fantasy, as I talk about sometimes, the most glorified fantasy of in HR. What's an annual performance review? How does it work? And how does it best support employees, managers, supervisors, directors, leads, the whole team? Okay. Next, we're going to review the current annual review form. So the form that you folks use currently, we'll take a look at that. Next, could the annual review process be more effective, and discuss options for updates and changes? All right. Next, how to best integrate this process into company goals and objectives. Basically, how aligned are we? How aligned is this process? And then finally, hopes for the future. So we've gone through the entire process. We've annotated the form. We've reviewed the form. We've given our honest feedback. What do we hope to get out of this? All of us, the team, and Summit as a whole. Okay. All right. Moving on. As I said, let's review what the annual performance review process is all about, APR. The definition: a performance review is a formal assessment in which a manager evaluates an employee's work performance, identifies strengths and weaknesses, offers feedback, and sets goals for future performance. All right, this is kind of the Webster's Dictionary definition. All right, and please do not be afraid. I will not be reading line by line on through this entire presentation. Okay, next, the process. The review is a planning process. It involves setting a plan of action for the next period and reviewing what has been achieved in the last period. Everybody has their own experience on what the APR, the annual performance review, has been for them, the way they've been taught, the way they've been reviewed, the way it's been utilized at different companies. So people's experiences are vast and varied in the annual performance review process. Okay, but as you see here, the process is a review. It's possibly looking at, not possibly, sorry. It is what has happened in the past. It's not a time to go into any, let's say, behavior or performance failures. Those should have been tackled at the moment they occur. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you are reviewing those times that you've had to have those tough conversations, and possibly they've been ongoing conversations, and so this would be a summation. Okay, I hope I'm not getting too deep into the weeds here, but continuing on, the outcome. What are we hoping for after we've gone through this process? We want to help employees understand what they're doing well, how can they improve, how their work aligns with larger company goals, what's the big picture, and what is expected of them. High performing employees can be more easily recognized in these situations. We can correct issues before they become insurmountable. We can communicate expectations. This is a big one, utilizing this time to communicate those daily expectations or those overall expectations for employees, to encourage growth for employees and development, and foster employee engagement. All right. After having these conversations, what we hope is the employees will be a little more energized. They'll be a little more focused. They'll have the perception, a better perception of what is expected of them, and how they are going to focus to better achieve. That's our hope for the annual performance review process. Okay. So now that we've gone through the definition, what is the goal? All right. So the goal of an annual performance review, an APR, is performance reviews are an important part of the overall effort to encourage and ensure quality service. Okay. If you're not sure how this fits in, how we are attempting to ensure quality service, maybe this is a note you need to write down right now and ask later on in this presentation. How does this all tie together? If you in your mind you do have you do have a grasp of how this works, well then please possibly share with the rest of us later on. Okay, second bullet point, employees who receive a thorough and honest review of their performance through a job-related assessment of their efforts will become better motivated and higher performing individuals. Basically, we're talking communication here. Okay, how thorough and honest is your communication when you are attempting to educate and lead your employees and staff? All right, bullet point number 3, in order to achieve the goals of the performance review program, employees should be informed of the objectives of the review and receive timely feedback during the review period. So first of all, informed of the objectives. Why are we here? Why are we having this annual review process? All right, a lot of times, a lot of people have experience. We sit down with our manager. They say, okay, this is what you're doing wrong. And I'm being I know I'm being overly blatant here, but this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you're doing right. And go. I'm hoping to have a little more of a conversation in my annual review process so I, as an employee, can take ownership. Now, sometimes that may be hard to find, but that's the fantasy, engaging that employee, okay? And then the last portion of this sentence, receive timely feedback during the review period. So that may be setting communication expectations with your employee in the annual review process and say, hey, we're gonna continue to tackle these items. You're doing this well. I want to make sure that you stay on course. Or I feel you may need support on these items. Can we have conversations about this at this and this time? Okay. All right. Moving on, and please, Don't be shy if you want to raise your hand and jump out there. I'm trying to fit all this into an hour presentation, but I want to make sure I cover everything. So please let me know what clarifications you may have. All right, we're going to move on. General pitfalls of an annual performance review. Okay, how often the performance review is given. Okay, most often we hope to do it once a year. Some companies decide we're going to do it quarterly. Some companies even more frequent than quarterly. Okay, that is up to you. I'm going to say that's up to the effectiveness, the job, the performance, the needs of the employees and staff, how much communication is necessary. Okay, next, training managers in conducting an annual review. All right, one of the pitfalls here is we just throw managers in and say, here, review your employees and staff, figure it out, so to speak. Okay. So, what kind of support does leadership need in order to do an effective review? All right, communicate everything that needs to be communicated, tackling those issues. That's a huge one right there. Just being able to communicate effectively with your employees. And some individuals are not as skilled at confrontation. And so just honing that skill set to take on the hard questions and the hard presentations, okay? All right, moving on, practice and comfortability with the APR, the annual performance review forms and material. All right, this is when you have these forms, you've never seen them before, or possibly it's a brand new system, or you just are not comfortable with the system that's there. All right, any of these, it then will affect, of course, the outcome of the review. All right, so becoming more comfortable, becoming familiar, utilizing it effectively, the process in place. Right. This is something that why we're doing this right now for training purposes. All right. Next, knowledge or history with the employee. Have you had a full year, let's say, or whatever the review timeline is? Have you had that full picture of the employee? Is it a new employee, either transferred from another department or a new hire? All right. Or is this individual remote? What are the little items that are, I'm going to say, impending a thorough review of the employee? All right. What could you do to possibly gather more information, maybe going to a prior manager that this employee moved from? Gather that information. Maybe it's not yours to present. And that's where I would say the other manager would need to present for that time period, and then you present for the time period you have. And I would make sure, even if it was 3 weeks, just say, hey, we've been together 3 weeks. I don't have that much material. What are your hopes? These are my expectations, and just maybe have an open meeting. But I would still utilize that time effectively, no matter how long you've been with that employee. All right. All right, tying the entire process together with the goals and objectives of the company. This can be hard. And a lot of times that's why individuals come to us, HR, and say, hey, how do we tie all this together? All right, how can I empower this employee, motivate this employee, and tie the goals, whether it's our mission, our values, in with what we've spoken about in our the annual review. So this can be a rather hard subject. It is something we will talk about and tackle here today, but something to keep in mind. All right, how are we going to streamline this all together? Okay, and then finally, measurable takeaways. These are items that you can actually measure. The goals that you've given the employee, all right, are they measurable? Are they something they can actually achieve? This is something that you want to be able to put down in writing, and then within a certain time period, whatever time frame you've given to the employee, right? Are you able to effectively then measure those results and say you've achieved, or there is still work to be done? Okay. Um, you want to stay away from like ethereal sort of guidelines and say, hey, let's just tackle this as it comes to us. Hopefully there's more concrete guidelines, because ultimately, if the employee is not sure of how they're being measured, they're going to walk away from this with more questions, and it will affect most often their productivity and their results. Okay. All right. There's a few of the pitfalls we see most often in an annual review process. Again, take any notes. Let us know what questions you have on these. Okay. Moving on. Now, here is where I'm going to want some feedback from you folks. Some of your thoughts, some of your experiences, examples. Okay. In relation to the preceding pitfalls, where do you feel Summit's challenges lie in the annual review process? So I'm just going to back up a slide. How often training managers in the process, practice and comfortability with the process, knowledge, history with the employees, tying the process to goals and objectives of the company, and then measurable takeaways. So does anybody want to be brave and jump in here first and just give any examples or feedbacks? Example or feedback. Anything that they've seen in the past. All right. All right, Laura.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Thanks,
Okay.
Laura. Thanks.
I would say that the forms and the rating system that we use is kind of, I don't know, outdated and hard to use year to year for same person's performance.
Right, and hard to use year to year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and Laura, just to support you on this, this is not the first time we've heard this. So, forms and rating system outdated. I understand that, and that is something I think we'll be tackling here today. All right. Is there anything specific? Anybody else? Oh, good. We have a couple of individuals jumping in here. Who's next?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
So my thing is, like, it doesn't really feel like an employee conversation. It kind of just feels more like the reviewer is reading the review to you, and you just kind of sit and wait. And then after they finish that section with the rating system, it's like, do you agree? How do you feel about that? I guess you can kind of give feedback, but a lot of times the employees just kind of sitting there like, thanks for the feedback. It just doesn't seem as engaging as it could be.
And that is one of the biggest, in a review process. To me, this kind of comes down to training. And thank you so much. That is not new. And a couple of different items here on not a conversation. Possibly managers not taking the time to actually to have time to build an effective review. Okay, they just managers just have the time to list items. Therefore, when they sit down with the employee, all they're doing is merely listing items. And then, like you say, it's just feedback, and they say, okay, do you agree? Do you not agree? And it's not to me, an up-to-date conversation of what is actually happening. And so the preparation, in my mind, by a manager in constructing the review, that can really help that. And allowing that manager to have the time to research. And I've always said that you can't build that annual review process build that review a couple of weeks or a week before you have the review with the employee. It takes, in my mind, an extended amount of time to remember, to review your notes, to construct, okay, how is this related to what's going on? And not just the recency effect, as in, I only remember what's been happening for the last couple of months. You want to be able to take some notes to review, okay, this is what happened at the beginning of this year, let's say, and I'm comfortable talking about how where we are now, how we've built and changed and evolved since that time period. I know I'm using big words, but it is trying to engage, as we say here, trying to engage that employee and make sure that it is a conversation. That's what the HR hopes for. Okay, so I've talked a little too much here on that, but I do appreciate the feedback. Who's next?
So we have a comment from Stacy in the chat box.
Okay.
So for us, it is just a packet we make the review from. So they are just reading from the packet. This is something that Summit uses. So the leads, supervisors, they don't really get to make the review process themselves.
Okay. Do not to create the review themselves. Okay, and Kasha, just to confirm, the leads do not get to create the review themselves. Is that what we're understanding?
Yes. And Stacy, it sounds like it's a very structured process. This is a material that's provided, and it said distribute, the review from this, and there's no leniency to tailor that really from employee to employee or department to department, if I'm reading that correctly. Correct. Yeah. Okay. It's just a numbering system we give to the employees. So yeah, I'd even on your list, Scott, second that the rating system is outdated. It's the numbering system.
Okay. Did I spell Taylor? Tailor?
Yeah.
I'm being totally serious here.
I think it looks good.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right.
Yes. Oh, and then we have Shelly. Shelly, do you want to unmute yourself, or feel free to type? Okay, I think Shelly might be typing.
Okay.
Give Shelly a minute here.
And that's just the packet. Yes,
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, jump in.
I was going to type it, but it's probably easier just to say it. I was just, my observation is that our review is, if it is tied to a bump in pay, which it seems to be in our company, it's not based upon performance. The bump is consistent across all lines, and there's nothing a person can do to change that monetary amount that's tied to the review.
Okay. All right, I understand. Oh, Kasha, were you going to talk or no? Okay, so this makes sense. I understand what you're saying. So bump and pay, not based upon performance. So to utilize the bump and pay as a possible motivation or reward um, for a job well done, performance well done, something like that. Just to clarify, go ahead and if you want to just type to Kasha. If that's incorrect, please let me know. But otherwise, I do understand. Again, communicating that the job well done. In my history, I've worked for companies that they actually do their performance, their monetary changes at a different time. So they are not related. I'm going to throw that out there as this could be a good conversation for you folks to just say, okay, let's just do a performance review and let's not then do the pay at that time, coincidentally with the review. Let's do a change in pay at a 3 months later or something like that. That way, the message doesn't get lost, as in that conversation. You can have that conversation with the employee, and if they say, am I going to have a change in pay? Well, that's going to happen at a later time. What we want to do right now is just have this communication, this conversation, and hopefully this point here that we see that is just a packet, maybe we'll be able to change that then and have it more of a conversation to say what we're concentrating now is on your performance. And these are the challenges we're facing right now, as well as these are the successes that we're seeing. And we're just concentrating on this. And what's your feedback, Mr. and Mrs. Employee? All right. All right.
And we have
yeah.
Jennifer agreeing with Stacy. Yes, monetary changes directly relating to reviews. So
Okay.
yes, definitely another second on the bump and pay.
Okay. Okay.
Monetary there. And then we have, let's see here. Stacy says they only do annual reviews. So
Okay.
thinking that employees would like to have semi-annual reviews. So on a more frequent basis. Excellent. Great.
All right.
Quarterly, semi-annual, yeah.
Okay. All right. And that is absolutely, to me, that is something that is, what would your employees appreciate or not? A lot of, sorry to say, in HR, sometimes we say, okay, this is not what the employees want, but this is what we feel is necessary. Okay. So quarterly, semi-annual, I think that would be a fantastic change, and maybe that's something you implement for right now. And then I'm going to say in my history, you start off with a quarterly, semi-annual, and sometime later you realize, well, geez, now everybody's kind of on board. They're on the same train, and so we can continue and maybe drop one of these reviews and move back. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think that's fantastic, at least to have that conversation, to bring those employees in and show them your commitment, and get that communication and feedback much sooner than just once a year.
Right. I can tell somebody's been reading the 9 Lies About Work. That's
Yeah.
one of the not lie number 5, just having
Okay.
that feedback, needing more focus and attention. So that's great. Thanks for roping that in. And Laura, looks like we have a hand up from you. Feel free to unmute yourself.
I just wanted to chime in and say, like, goals and performance issues that are discussed during a performance review, like, there's not really a lot of consistent checking back in afterwards to see if those are being met and addressed. So, I mean, beyond like serious performance issues, things like goals for the year or stuff that you'd like to see yourself doing throughout the year, those not really ever addressed again.
Okay, I'm gonna make a kind of a down and dirty sentence here of what I feel I've heard from you. Please, please let me know if I've missed something here. But consistent follow through on goal setting progress not seen. So, and that is, oh gosh, I don't want to be unrealistic here. We are all very busy on a day-to-day basis. Setting those meetings, those timelines, it can be very, very hard. And then once you're 3 months out, or 3 weeks, a month, whatever it is, you set that timeline with that employee, or you've set that with your manager. And then all it takes is one, oh my gosh, I got a conflict here for our meeting on Friday. Okay, let's reschedule. Let's reschedule at a later date, and boom, it's gone. So I absolutely want to be realistic here about how we all have those challenges. It is making sure that that we have that follow through, and how that's done. I'm going to say I'm going to need to leave that up to you folks as far as, okay, this is important. This is something that needs to be done. We need to set this. And a lot of times, quite honestly, employees aren't motivated to set that meeting because they feel like maybe they're setting themselves up to be microscoped by their manager or supervisor. Again, I realize what the reality is here. But I am going to say it is up to the manager or supervisor to make sure that that follow through occurs. The onus is on them to say, okay, I need to follow through on these goal settings. And it's up to me. So I know that's a hard thing. We'll keep this in the box here. Thank you for bringing that up.
And a couple more comments, Scott, that just came through. So yes, Carly definitely added previous goals to the current review and states if the goal was or was not met. So pitfall there, that there's nothing there to state if it was met or not. So this is not something that's included in the packets, but it's something that the department does need to address in the goals. So maybe we can add that piece in there.
Okay, sorry, Kasha, I want to make sure I understand. It's not in the packet.
Yes, it's not in the packets. And I know that one, actually, maybe we can address that here, but I know that that's coming up in the presentation. So this would actually be a good segue. So, but let me just follow up on the last comments here as you continue finalizing that. So this is definitely something that the department needs to add. I agree, to address the goals.
Yes, yeah.
Stacy definitely agrees with Jen's comment. So Jen's saying that semi-annual reviews will help with the follow-up procedure. This way it isn't too frequent, but it helps remind the employee. So yes,
I'm going to do that. Let's just
yes,
stick to semi-annual. Okay.
Yep. And then Stacy definitely agrees here with Jen. And then so Jen also mentions weekly check-ins. So maybe incorporating a reminder to the employees of their goals and follow-ups during the one-on-ones, during the check-ins.
Yeah.
So she does not think that scheduling a meeting is necessarily the issue, as you mentioned, but maybe just perhaps bringing it up more frequently there.
Okay.
Stacy, so you mentioned goals are in the packets. The follow-up for the goals, is not in the packets. This is what we're
Cool.
about.
Okay.
So the follow-up.
Thank you.
No, I think this is a great segue. So let's, I think, take a look at that form.
Okay. I'm going to see establish timeline. check-ins. Does that make sense? Is that appropriate? Follow-up for goals?
Yes,
It's
yes. I
not.
think, yes, we're referencing goals are in the packet, but just the follow-up for the goals is not in there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then
Weekly check-in, yeah.
would be a good thing. Okay, I'm just gonna establish that weekly check-ins. And I want to make sure, because I do weekly check-ins all the time as an HR individual. I have weekly check-ins all the time when I'm first establishing something. Something has occurred, an incident, an occurrence, good or bad, doesn't matter. And then I say as an HR individual, hey, let's check in on this next week, okay? But I also want to make sure not to set, hey, this is going to be an hour meeting. I want to make sure this is going to be a 5-minute check-in. If more time is necessary, we absolutely can utilize that. But I want to make sure that it's your time. Come in. If we have nothing to talk about, I just want to assure you, the employee, that you're being heard, listened to, and then I'm going to take at least, it could be 60 seconds, 1 minute. I'm going to dedicate that time to you. Okay. And then you as a manager, as a lead, you can feel free also. Okay. Yes. I just want to focus on this employee for this minute. And sometimes that's all it's needed. That's 60 seconds. Okay. It doesn't go any further than that. Absolutely, it can. I just want to give you that freedom, okay?
I
So,
agree, Scott. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That just that time spent there, and could you actually modify that last bullet point? So it looks
yes,
like weekly check-ins would be good to. I guess the goal follow-up would be good to incorporate into the weekly check-ins. Since Summit already does check-ins, let's just incorporate the goals into the weekly check-ins as follow-up. Thanks, Jonna. Thank you, Melissa and Shelley.
okay. Okay, is that okay? Just want to make sure. I have my own thought about how this reads. I want to make sure you folks.
Yeah, so we're adding the goal follow-up into the weekly check-ins. Yes, I think that does
Okay.
convey here. All right.
All right. Is that okay? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to move on now. We've gotten some great feedback. Please, if you think of something, please jump back to Kasha and chat, raise your hand, something like that, okay? So these are absolutely our takeaways for change. So the list of challenges, okay? All right, moving on, summer performance review. And I am going to, I think this is going to, you will not be able to see this. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Kasha, I think you're the only one on the mic. Can you see?
Yes, I can
Okay.
see Summit Pathology Performance Appraisal Annual Review Form.
Okay, so here we go. So I think if I remember correctly, one of the comments was, this form may be antiquated. Okay, in your folks' view, how you use it, how Summit works. So I just wanted to bring this up real quick. If anybody has any immediate thoughts, please let me know. We don't have to spend any time on this, but I did, of course, want to just bring this up. Is this familiar with you folks? Is this the form we're talking about? I want to make sure and validate, okay, this is the direction we're heading. This is the form we're talking about. Any immediate thoughts? Anything, anybody saying, okay, Scott, page 3, I love this, I hate this. I know that.
I really like Stacy's comment. Yes, that is the form. I can hear it in your voice, Stacy.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're getting feedback. We don't like this form. So
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Solid. And this is why I'm actually showing it to you because, okay, we're validating that this is the form we don't have maybe positive feelings. We always want to be positive in HR. We don't have positive feelings.
Oh,
So,
and then Jennifer, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, this is just easier to say than type. So the thing, the problem with this form is that it's just like a standard number, and then it doesn't say anymore. But what I liked at my old job that I did, working at CSU, is we had a number system, but it was more subjective instead of objective. And we would do like, you get a 4.25, but then instead of it being like above average planning and organizing, we instead would like explain to the employee, like, this is what I've seen you do that really helps, like you helped with the scheduling or you did all this different stuff. And instead of them reading this one sentence explanation, they heard us tell them exactly what it was. And like in our review thing, we actually had like, we wrote down notes prior to the meeting. So then it would be more conversational. And then, we would be praising them directly instead of indirectly through a 3, 4, 5 score.
Okay, so what you're saying, instead of reading, let's say this sentence, number 3, average planning and organization occasionally requires assistance, you would have, like you said, a little more of a subjective statement.
Exactly, yeah. So we would say like, we feel you do like an average or above average job, and here's why.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm taking notes off screen here about what you said. More subjective. We still use a scoring system. Okay. But like you say, give examples from real life.
Exactly, yeah. And the whole point of the number system is more because people just like to have a concrete measure of their performance instead of saying,
Right.
you're doing good. It's like, you're for good,
Right. Sorry to throw this in, but I think of Lisa Simpson on The Simpsons, where she stands there and she needs to be rated. Rate me. So she needs to be rated on a scale. So, all right. And some of us require that. Some of us need that rating, like you say. And some of us, it's also reading your employee to know how they are best. I guess I'd say comforted in these reviews. So, all right. Okay. Any more feedback? I don't want to take a ton of time. You guys are familiar with the forum. We've heard your feedback on this form. So I'm going to plan on moving on unless there's some more feedback to be provided here.
Yeah, Scott, I'll let you switch over to the presentation. Looks like we do have some more feedback, but I'm going to wait until we get to your next slide to add these pieces.
Okay. All right. I'm back on the form. Everybody good here?
Yep, good there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in relation to the preceding form, thank you, Kasha, for your support. What works well? Let's jump right in. Understand your feelings on the form, but is there some positive takeaways that we can utilize from this form?
And Scott, just so you know, I have some comments here just from Stacy, Laura, and I will save those until your next slide. So
okay,
if we could just, what works well on the form, if anything, anything, and then Stacy and Laura, I see you in here. We'll address those in just a minute.
Yeah, if we got nothing but birds chirping right now, that's okay. But think about how you've used this form in the past. Is there something that works simply? That's what I'm going to say. Is there something on this form where you go, well, it makes it simple in this way? Again, maybe it is the numbering system.
Yeah, so one comment here from Stacy, the form is simple in general. So I guess
Okay.
that does work well. It's just very simple.
Simple in general. And that's okay. Yes. Little bit of a negative possibly, but otherwise, for some individuals, it kind of leads you through the process. And again, to be realistic, annual reviews come up and you go, oh my gosh, okay, now I have this extra job I have to do for this time period. And so, but the form is simple in general. Thank you for that feedback. That's awesome. And any other thoughts?
So I'm not seeing any hands raised
Okay.
or comments. If we want to go to the next one, because I've a
Yep.
few comments here in the chat box.
Okay, now what does not work well? Let's jump into this.
Okay, so first comment I see here, I'm going to just go back a little bit. So from Stacy, so there's no comment section at the bottom. So Summit leads and supervisors tend to add comments on the bottom of each section to explain the number selected if necessary.
Okay, no comment section under each. Sorry, Kasha, go ahead.
And there's no explanation of the number. And I think this correlates with what Laura just said about just explaining why somebody was to get a certain rating.
Sorry. Was the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the next comment on here is a lot of folks feel like they're being rated compared to other employees versus their performance last year. Yeah.
Feels like more of a comparison
versus their performance. Yeah, last year.
Okay, excellent. That's great feedback.
Another comment on the rating is the staff tends to think of 3s as C's. And we are having to explain to them that 3s are actually where we expect people to be. So that's kind of the average midpoint, but really they're viewing 3 as C's, and so potentially 2 as B, or 4 as B's, 5 as A's. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely, I understand that. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Another comment here from Jana. So sometimes she wants to give a 3.5, and then with the current form, the way it is formatted, it won't calculate the fraction.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have Stacy to Jana. So when Caitlin and Stacy make forms, they feel that somebody falls in between. They highlight both areas and leave a comment below. When they make the reviews, then they leave the comment below. So yeah, I think that goes to that first bullet point. Yeah, that we have addressed here.
Okay. Yeah. It's okay. So some folks have they just decided to create their own resolution.
Yeah. Which I think is great. And we have one more comment here from Jana. So it would be nice to adjust the wording for each of the ratings to be more personable, so more customizable based on each employee. And let's see here. Stacy is using a different form than Jana due to Microsoft Word formatting. Okay, I see. So it sounds like there's the consistent form, but we're already kind of working on tailoring and adjusting to what our needs are. So this is going to be a nice change once we can
Yeah.
resolve this evaluation.
Okay. And I love this. This feedback just means you folks are utilizing it. And so you are seeing the problems, the limitations. So this is such great feedback. Really appreciate this. Okay. Am I missing something, Kasha?
No,
I've been typing away, so.
Yes, yes. No, I'm watching hands, comments. No, I think that was the last piece of it.
Okay. All right. This is, I absolutely see what you folks are saying here. This is really great help. And possibly, well, when we move forward, possibly making these changes and giving you folks a little more versatility in your annual review. That's what it's, okay. Kasha, yeah.
And I know we're getting short on time. We have about 2 minutes left here with everyone. But is everyone free to keep going? We have a few more slides we would like to get through. I think maybe another 15 or so minutes. I know we are running short on time. John is free. Okay. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I know this is a lot of material to get through. So yeah, if we could cruise on through. Anyone that needs to disconnect, please feel free. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And otherwise, we will continue on this. So thank you for bearing with us here for just a little bit longer. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll pick up my pace. So the next slide, as you see, we just moving on 9. This is kind of where we jump into the 9 lies about work, but also continuing on with what a annual performance review in the HR realm, what it means, okay, and what tools we utilize. What you're seeing here are the tools of the annual review, how it's utilized. Now, this may be something we need to introduce those of you who are not familiar, as well as there may be some folks who have utilized this in the past. These are the tools of the annual review process. Okay, so what I'd actually like to do is take just a second. And if you guys can see, I'm going to click on my annotate. Can you see this when I drop down the annotate, Kasha?
No, we cannot see the drop down, but if everyone could hover just at the top of their screen.
There we go.
Scott's example, his screen is a little different than ours because he's presenting, but if you go to view options at the top, click the drop down caret and then select annotate. Then another taskbar comes up that Scott's referring to here, and you can see mouse, text, draw, and stamp. So we're going to utilize that stamp feature. So if everyone could just pull up the annotate tool, and you can actually annotate anywhere on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a star in the top right-hand side so you can see how that annotate stamp works. Okay, and I'll let you explain the rest, Scott.
Okay, so what we'd like you folks to do is, as you see here, you have the tool exists and is utilized. Underneath the stamp portion, you're going to see the 2 items we want you to use, either the check mark or the question mark. Okay, and what we'd like you to do is look at these and tell us, just looking at executive talent, let's look at that one. Are you comfortable? Do you know this word, executive talent? Do you know the word succession and how it's utilized? Do you know assessment? Okay, coaching. If you do, I'm going to say please put a check mark in the box. Okay, and I'm going to do that real quick just to, I'm going to put it executive talent. Okay, I see somebody just put a question mark under succession. Perfect. The question mark is going to be no, not so much. Don't know this. Do not know how this is utilized, how this word is utilized in relation to an annual review. Okay. A check mark means yes, I'm familiar with it. I know how it's utilized in the context of an annual review. Okay. All we're doing here is, again, from the HR standpoint, these are the 8 items that we utilize when reviewing an annual review. Okay. All right. So we don't need to know, well, no, we just want a consensus. And so we can get a feel here. And what we're going to do, I'm recording this, of course, and we're going to do a screenshot. And this is something that lets us know where we can put our concentration. Okay. The next slide, we are going to talk a little more about these. I'm going to do it briefly, again, because we are running out of time. But does everybody feel like they've had a chance to vote? Jump on if you have not, but this is perfect. This is exactly what we wanted. Thank you guys so much. Okay.
Okay, looks like all votes are in. I did grab a screenshot of this for us, and then
Tasha, thank you.
if everyone could just clear their votes, it's going to be on the top right of that panel, just to the right. Just go ahead and select clear, and we'll clear the votes. Wonderful. I see those disappearing. Thank you.
You guys are awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Kasha, thank you. Okay. We are now going to move. Let's see. We're here. Okay. How are the tools you currently use related to, I'm sorry, how they relate to performance management? Okay. I think what we're going to do, what we're going to have a little more interactive here, but again, in the essence of time, we are going to take the results that you guys provided us as far as familiarity, but to have a brief overview here, let's just utilize executive talent is the talent that you see, the management that you feel is provided from upper management. Okay, so having the ability to lead, having the ability to provide answers, direction, okay, that you may be feeling from above. As an HR individual, I see companies that you can see that executive leadership and how it is utilized effectively. How I'm going to use the word, how it is wielded, how it is used. Okay, can you feel the leadership from above?
And Scott, are you referring to the entire company or just their departments?
Oh, thank you very much. Very good question. I'm going to start first and say overall company from above. Okay. That is the first question I would ask as an HR individual. Are you feeling the leadership from above? Okay. Sorry, there's different items I could bring in. I don't want to extend this any because we're running out of time. Let's first say from above, do you feel that leadership, that guidance? Okay. And then, yes, let's step down and say departments. From those departments, what kind of leadership, talent do you see? Do you feel like you're provided with support and guidance? And that's what I hope for in leadership. Okay. All right, moving on, succession. Succession is that ability to guide individuals who are, number one, show that they want to move to the next step. Okay, they want to take on those challenges and they want to take on that work. All right. And then maybe individuals that do not feel like they have a place to go. And they're wandering around aimlessly, but they're doing a good job for you. Maybe then that succession, so I don't want to move that, but that succession is going to provide them a new direction, or it's going to motivate them, okay? Succession is extremely important. It's tagging those individuals that you hope to, how do we say this? Basically, you're going to promote them. Okay, whether that's with money, whether that's with title, whether that's with responsibility. Okay, assessment. Okay, providing that feedback for employees in whatever form the assessment is taking. All right, how are we? I don't want to use the word testing, but how are we supporting the individual in what they're doing? Okay, we're going to assess them and then provide them that feedback. And it's crucial, providing them that feedback so they can possibly change direction and be the maximum amount of support that can be for the company, be most effective. All right. And assessment and coaching could go together. Finding that coaching, which is that it's the feedback, but coaching to me is just a little more. Coaching is providing a little, you're providing that support. Okay. There is maybe a little bit more personal, subjective feedback in coaching. Okay. And I'm going to throw in the word nurturing. Okay. All right. You guys do what you want with that, but I think nurturing employees, that's where that effective coaching comes in. Workforce talent planning. Again, this you have to be able to see where you're going, what your workforce has available, and then being able to provide that direction. Again, we're utilizing quite a bit of these tools, but that workforce talent planning. Okay, using what you have at hand. It's one of your greatest assets. All right, technology. So many different forms of technology, what you have available at the time, whether it's just utilizing your computer or whether you folks have a very advanced system for, let's say, onboarding employees, recruiting employees, and then on a daily basis, supporting and training your employees. Okay, it's overall, how are you using technology to your benefit? Okay, it can really streamline. I've been to some companies in their performance management process, their annual review process. They have the ability to send everything via email. Nobody really even leaves their desks. Now this can be a negative, but it's also very, very efficient. Okay, how do you use it best for your culture? Okay, research and analytics. And what we're doing here is how efficient are you folks at what you do, whether that's getting your product out, training. Again, we're going to go back to training. How best are our employees being trained? And then after they're trained, are they learning? Are they going back to their desks or back to the floor and utilizing it? How can we test that? All right, do we have the tools to test that? I'm just 2 seconds. If we are taking the time to train our employees, are we getting a return on our investment, or are we just telling them, okay, go back to your desk, we just trained you? Okay, we need to have that return. And then talent management. This is an ongoing, fluctuating system, making sure that you have the ability to take the talent that you have, recognizing that talent, and then utilizing it in succession planning. Okay, assessing and coaching your talent. Again, talent, your workforce, it is one of your biggest investments and one of your largest assets. It has to be utilized all throughout this system. And to me, that's where the performance management comes in your annual review process. All right. So this is big picture here. I wanted to throw these out to you folks just to see if you recognize and how you might be utilizing them. We'll ask this question again later on. All right, I want to move to the next slide. We have now completed a review of the current annual performance review form, and we reviewed the 9 Lives tools. And I'm going to say the 9 Lives tools, more performance management tools. Now let's review the current process in place supporting the annual employee review process. And we're going to just dig a little bit deeper. And then we are going to throw in the 9 Lives tools and how they might fit into the process. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of jump in here and now get a little more feedback from you folks on how the team alignment, how you folks feel that these tools might be utilized on a daily basis. Are they being utilized? Okay, and how do they fit into your culture? If we don't feel that these are present, well, then this is absolutely, we're going to set ourselves up for another meeting where we take the time to absolutely review these a little more in depth. So let me ask the question. Do you feel like you see these items, executive talent, succession, coaching, technology, talent management, do you see them at Summit, and do they fit? What do you folks think? Any clarifying questions you might have?
So we have a comment from Jennifer here. So currently being used, so technology, talent management, and research and analytics. Yeah, these are certainly being used.
Okay, that is absolutely wonderful. And I've abbreviated here. Okay, technology, talent management, and research and analytics. Okay, I love the research and analytics. Not a lot of folks utilize that. It can be cumbersome. All right, and utilizing or having a tool, an effective tool, to actually gather this data is sometimes hard. Talent management also, I'm so glad that you guys feel like you're internally utilizing your talent effectively. All right.
A chat in the chat from Laura. So it feels that some positions don't have succession options. So then you have to make a lateral move. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, just to answer this question, well, kind of what's lingering out there, some options, some positions do not have succession options. I do understand that, and that's where talent, in my mind, talent management, being able to be imaginative and, like you say, laterally move so those individuals can be utilized. Very, very good question, Laura, or statement. Point to be brought up. Okay.
Yes, agreed. And one more here from Jennifer. So executive talent is not being used as effectively from the top, but department-wise it is.
Okay.
And we have Stacy seconding that statement. So yeah, so department is being utilized, but not effectively from the top.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say utilized from the top.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and then although it is departmentally, yes, excellent.
Okay.
Additional bullet point here we have, so their training system is very effective and focuses on the development of the employee. So that is great to hear. So hats off to IT. I know that they did a great job setting up these systems.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so in my mind, all these items are just when you have these tools already in place and you have the knowledge that, okay, this is working well, it's just one less thing to tackle. And then we can just take the time to tackle the items that are not as supportive and not as much of a help in the workplace. Okay. All right. What else? Anything?
Okay, so no, I don't see any hands.
Okay.
And I think that was the last comment from Jennifer. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
Great, you guys.
Thank you. All right. So I think we've actually, we answered this question. What is working well? Okay. So I just want to, just in the essence of time, I think we'll move on then to how to communicate this to staff. And what we mean there, how can these items be communicated to staff? And I think our question, just to be able to kind of roll with this as we keep going, I think our question might have changed here, how we communicate this effectively to staff. Let's say, how are we going to effectively use these tools with staff? Okay, and I'll kind of lead off this conversation and say that your feedback here is wonderful, as in there's some folks that may not be aware that executive talent is not effectively utilized from the top, but it is departmentally. And so going forward, they're going to have a new awareness. Okay, so how are we going to utilize this going forward? And that's what I want you folks. Do you have any immediate thoughts on how we might utilize some of these effectively going forward? Let's instead of communicating to staff, all right, how are we going to utilize these effectively going forward? Does anybody have any immediate thoughts just after the preceding slide and now this slide? All right. Because what I want to make sure is everybody has a familiarity, at least rudimentary, on these workforce coaching, assessment, succession, all of these items. Okay. How are we going to utilize these items going forward in our annual review process? So I do see that somebody's chatting in.
Yes. Melissa says it might be helpful to know what the executive talent goals are.
Yes. Well, not actually.
Mission and vision of the company. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That is such an excellent question. Because a lot of times that is not, sorry, I'm laughing here because it is not communicated. You are leads, okay? It needs to be communicated to you folks. What are we following? Where's our support? And so then you can effectively communicate to your employees and staff. So this is such a good question. So I'm going to say a more clear, God, if somebody disagrees with this statement, please let me know, or a refining of this statement. Please let me know, but that's what I'm kind of reading into this. What are the executive goals from above? And it's the same way you can communicate to your employees. Okay. More clearer conversation, clear communication. It
Yes.
just clears the mist. It clears the path. Kasha?
Yes, yes. And we have a comment here from Jennifer. That is so true. The leads hear nothing, and then suddenly there are huge changes that affect them, and the executives don't consider how it'll change their procedure and workflow. So, yes, sudden changes that affect procedure and workflow. Yeah, so I think those goals and the clear guidelines from above would help
Yes.
fix and resolve this.
Yes.
And
Thank
we
you.
have a comment from Stacy. So not familiar enough with these categories to utilize them. So and Stacy, you bring up a good point. So everybody on the page where we use the annotated stamp tool, we selected the 4 items on that slide that were all the same. So this is actually great for us to know on the concurrent side, because we can go back and maybe, and this can be a session for another day where we can just clarify these, learn how to utilize these tools before they apply them to reviews.
Yes.
Yes, so excellent there.
Yes, thank you. And that is something that we would absolutely be available to do. Again, these are just tools in your toolbox.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, we can take those notes. And yes, Jennifer, I see that you're agreeing here that we just need some clarification on how these work so we can extend this to the employees. So wonderful. We'll make a note of that one so we can, and this can be part of our recommendation too, just clarifying these areas.
Yeah. And remember, all of these are not possibly used equally by each individual. Some departments utilize some of these differently. All right. So some of these are stand out much more, and others fall kind of behind, and that's okay. So it's how to effectively utilize each one as a tool. All right. Great feedback. I'm going to keep going if that's okay. Again, you can continue to chat, send feedback to Kasha. All right. Do you feel, up at the top here, do you feel you could work more closely with other departments to build a greater team atmosphere? Let's just first off, what do you feel? Is there a yes, there a no? And again, we're not tracking per se. I just, Kasha, you could just write yes or no, and we could get an overall feel. Is it necessary? Would it be helpful?
Yeah, so we have a comment from Laura. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if Jennifer, yes, feel that some departments are one-sided or keep to themselves, so others are unsure of what goes on there and what we do affects them. Definitely. Yeah, Stacy agrees. Yes.
And I do understand that we're asking a hard question here. Now, I'm not as familiar on the day-to-day operations at Summit, but here's what I've seen as an HR professional. All right, there's some individuals or some, no, I'm not going to say individuals, I'm going to say departments. There are some departments that keep to themselves. And whether that's out of conflict in the past or a specialty or something like that, if it can help the company to possibly just open up communication, maybe just having a luncheon between department leads just to compare notes. As we stated here, what are the goals of the executives, and sharing that viewpoint that can really open up doors. Okay. So this is something that we can work on. And how would it work for you? How would it be necessary to open those doors, to open up that communication? And for some departments to say, yes, we're receiving this constantly. We get this all the time. And the other department saying, gosh, we don't receive that communication. And there's no real reason why you should not. Okay. These are the questions we want to ask.
Yes, and we have another yes from Lisa. So happy to see the team chat groups, which have led to quick and easy communications between transcription and other groups.
Okay.
So yes, definitely working on opening up those lines of communication. I know that internally we utilize Teams as well, and it's almost seems like we're communicating more now utilizing that tool than we ever have.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And even, yeah, Kasha, we see that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
Okay. That's wonderful. And that's, I know Teams is such, I'm going to throw Teams because that is, I think we've all seen just the power of Teams, especially in this time, what we saw in 2020, the growth of Teams has increased communication. It is a powerful tool. I actually, one of my best friends from high school works at Microsoft and works for Teams. And he says, yeah, most people don't know how powerful it is. So if we know that the power's there, how can we then utilize it? Okay. And all we have to do is ask the question. All right. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, and
okay.
Lisa adds absolutely. So yeah, as a at-home based team, so yeah, those individuals that are working remotely, it is very helpful. So I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, roping everybody in remotely. Agreed.
Okay. I'm going to throw that in. Roping everyone in. Okay. Okay. Just moving on. Again, I know our time is over, but anything else? Any last minute?
Yeah, we had one more from Stacy. Some people in departments have more interactions with other departments than other members of the department. So, for example, Stacy has interactions with the administrative department more so than Laura or Madison might have. So, yeah, definitely bridging maybe more of the gaps there with those departments. Department interactions. Yeah.
Okay. And I do understand, sorry, I'm not finishing the statement here, but I absolutely, sometimes there are departments that it's just absolutely necessary to communicate.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the squeaky wheel syndrome. And so maybe creating those, and that's where you just have that, that Friday afternoon or Friday morning or Tuesday, whatever timing is, just saying, okay, let's get together at this time. And I've even seen meetings that happen in the kitchen just so they can say, okay, this is what happened last week. This is what we're doing. This is what needs to happen. And it's a little bit informal, but it's definitely formal on the calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
intentional communication.
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right. So, okay. So I do understand that, and that is something that we will tackle. All right. Some are necessary. Okay. Moving on. Okay. And I do really appreciate you folks bringing this up, especially this last one, because I do understand how that works and how that interaction, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. Create a more effective process. Okay, let's just, again, the essence of time. Does anybody, after what we've just talked about, all right, does anybody have any immediate thoughts on how we might be able to improve the interdepartmental communication? Any immediate thoughts? Now, we can brainstorm this more in depth later on, but any immediate, while you were thinking about it, I'm just going to keep talking until somebody raises their hand. while we've been talking about this the last couple of minutes, has anybody had any thoughts that came up that, oh yeah, we could do it at this time. We already have this meeting. How we might be able to increase?
And we definitely talked through the form and how to make that more effective, but even opening this up more to performance
Yeah.
annual review process. And so opening this up even more if anyone has immediate thoughts on this.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay. And I do think in the annual review process, I always, some of the companies I work for, there was always a kickoff meeting to the annual review process, okay? Annual performance review. And it really set in motion the whole spirit of the annual review. And then people, because we had that kickoff meeting, people then felt they could ask questions. Whereas if it's informal, individuals sometimes feel like, oh gosh, I just need to figure this out by myself. And I really, I don't like, as an HR individual, I do not like that, because it is a big process. And there's always questions every single year. Okay.
That's a great strategy, Scott. Those meetings just to start the process. So yeah, I would agree. I don't see any hands or comments if we want to
Okay.
go on to the next.
Okay. All right. Next one, how to build trust and empower employees. And what we wanted here, again, in the flow of this, we're almost to the end, but building that trust and empower employees. This, to me, in the process of the APR, the annual performance review, okay, communicating this to employees. In my view, it's listening to employees, listening to their feedback. You as leadership, okay, as a lead, you have probably a bit more knowledge. And then as they provide feedback, the employees provide feedback, you're looking at their annual review, you have that higher view to say, okay, this is possibly what they're thinking. This is possibly where they're going. This is where their energy is. You then have that ability to hear, listen, and then guide. And that's where I'm going with this, is to build that trust and empower employees, and possibly provide that feedback for those employees, because you have that higher view, you have a greater knowledge. You can then say, okay, I see what you're doing here. I see what's going on here. And as they talk, you then can provide that trusted feedback and guidance, and then they improve. And then that's where you're building that trust. The employee feels like, okay, this lead has my back. Does that make sense to folks? If it doesn't, please ask a question. But to me, it's hearing those employees, giving them provide that trusted feedback in the review process, and then on a daily basis, of course. All right. Does anybody have any thoughts, any additions to this? Otherwise, this will be just a point that we make here, something to, again, utilize in your tool bag. Okay, building in trust and empowering employees. It's going to come from your guidance and trust. Okay.
Yes, and anyone feel free to add in comments, and then Scott, real quick, if we could go to slide 19. We just had one comment come in from Jana as we were switching slides. So so just kind of to reiterate on the communication. So since so many employees at Summit work at remote facilities, it would be nice to have a more effective way to get feedback from other staff. So to have more consistently work more with employees, to add to the employee APRs.
Okay, remote facilities need effective
Need
feedback.
effective feedback from other staff. More consistently working with employees to add to employee APRs. Yeah.
Yep, Kasha, what's
Mm-hmm. Yes, yep. And that one covers, I think, slide 19. Let's go back to slide 20.
okay?
We have one more
Okay.
from Stacy. So she says, follow through with employees' feedback. So if employees don't see that their feedback is taken into consideration, then they won't feel that they can trust us and they won't feel empowered.
That is such a great comment.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes, this is absolutely a place where we are providing, one essential place where we're providing feedback. Well, I say feedback. When the employees provide feedback, and then you as a lead follow through on it, and then hopefully having that time to then return to the employee and say, okay, this is what I did with your feedback. We are going to be able to see change. We're not going to be able to see change. Being honest. This is wonderful. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a great idea. And it looks like we have just some confirmations of that. Melissa saying, I like this idea. Another idea for a second bullet point is going to be more peer review. Jennifer agrees with Stacy. There are times employee feedback is given, but they aren't updated. So it seems like that's that follow through that we talked about earlier on in the presentation with that form. There's no place to do that follow up.
Yeah.
And Laura says it would be nice to provide comments on our supervisors for their review. So Jennifer says, yes, we can provide great feedback for our supervisors to help us during their review, but we don't necessarily hear about it. So it sounds like the comments on supervisors for their review, so more of that 360 approach.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Did I cover that right? Laura and Jennifer, just a 360 and then a peer review added to that. That was perfect. Awesome.
Okay,
Great.
sweet. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, just back to that feedback. For anybody, feedback is validation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, again, and I always say in customer service, even if you've said no, but you've done everything possible, you've provided good customer service. I'm going to say the same thing about feedback or follow-up. Even if you have to say no, we're not able to do it. If you've had follow-up, then you've validated and you've provided good customer service. You've provided a positive to your employee, whoever gave you feedback. I know I'm kind of talking in a loop here. Remember to follow up.
Yes.
Bottom line, remember to follow up.
Oh, and Scott, on just the second bullet point, peer, could we change that to PEER?
Oh,
yeah, I think it auto-corrected on you. Yes.
I'm a sailor.
Yeah, exactly. Sailing our way through annual performance reviews.
Darn it. Okay.
Thank you. No, that looks good. And I know there's always the pressure when you're typing in and everyone's watching. So
that's exactly, thank you. More peer reviews.
Yes. So no, that is great on this section. What else have you got for us, Scott?
Okay, so overall goals and objectives for Summit. And this was our final slide. This was after reviewing all this, after going through the annual performance review, after going through these items, the performance management tools, okay, what do you folks feel are do you have some goals and objectives? Are they all uniform between this group, between the leads? So is it clear to you, the goals and objectives? So I'm kind of opening up a Pandora's box here. That's what my question was. After reviewing all this, it's kind of fresh in your mind right now. Do you feel like you have a unified? And again, I know I'm asking a question here that I may go, oh my gosh, or I may be, you all may be absolutely surprised that no, I do feel like I have a good feel of the overall goals and objectives for Summit. So this could be a short. I would say if you feel like it, just that you have a good feel for the goals and objectives, just reply yes. If you don't, reply no at the very minimum. And what I'm going to say is if you feel like you know the reason, maybe provide just a quick explanation. If you don't know the reason, no, I don't feel like I have a good handle on the goals and objectives of what Summit is about. What this is going to do is help when we provide feedback, Kasha and I provide feedback, we're going to be able to overall say, you know what, we feel like we have a good, your employees, your management, your supervisors, your leads, they have an overall goal. To me, it's kind of the spirit of what Summit is.
Yes,
All
and
right.
I have a couple of yeses in here already in the chat box, Scott. And if we could
Great.
add the ultimate primary goal for Summit is patient care. And it sounds like that goal is set for everyone to abide by.
That actually is wonderful because that sounds absolutely like a positive. And I'm just going to say, when it comes down to daily work, you're understanding what your goal is.
Yes,
Kasha,
yes.
did you?
Yeah, and then we have one more from Jennifer here. Yes, quality as well as quantity. So Jennifer feels that our goal as a company is to continue to grow and provide services everywhere. Grow and provide services everywhere.
I'm so happy. And I say that from an HR perspective that you folks, I'm going to give you kudos. It seems like you're unified, that you have an understanding that everybody says, yep, this is who we are. This is what we're about. And it just means you do not, you don't have as much work. You don't have to put in as much effort because a lot of the spirit is there. So not to be too bolder, but you guys really have a focus, and that's wonderful. And that's something we can absolutely, you folks can build on. And okay, Kasha?
Yes, and I'd agree with you, Scott, that so we have the overall goals, but how do those translate over to performance reviews? How can we
Okay.
quantify those? So and then it looks like Stacy says this would be a better question to ask the employees who aren't leads. I think that's a great objective for us. Ask the employees.
I'm going to put 3 question marks. Is that too many?
No, that's good. I think, yeah, let's ask the employees and see what they think. Wonderful.
Okay. Yes, and Kasha, you bring up a great point. How does this translate then to annual performance reviews? And I'll give a short answer there that having that the understanding of your goals can be the foundation of what we're utilizing all these tools for. You have a focus of how to use talent management, because there's a reason you're using talent management or succession. Okay, I really feel like these individuals need to be promoted here within its summit. And the reason we're doing this is because they do their job well. And here's the practical application, and here's how they've done it. And I'm gonna hopefully allow them to succeed here, therefore succession, and be promoted to do their work and stand out at summit. Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Scott. And I don't see any other
Okay.
questions or hands, but I know that we have gone very over time. So Scott,
Yeah.
I will let you wrap it up, just tie the bow on this. And,
Okay.
and again, thank you for everyone for your time today. We really appreciate your feedback. We've gotten lots of activity, and so hence I think we've gone over our time. So just thank you. We respect your time so much and know that it is valuable. So just thank you for bearing with us. And Scott, I'll turn it over to you to finalize.
Thank you. Key takeaways. Purpose of today's session was an attempt to make the annual review process easier and more effective. That is absolutely something for the future. This was our purpose, and you will receive feedback on this session and what we can do in the future. Thank you so much for being honest and straightforward. This will help us in a direction to create change. Okay. Second bullet point, we hope to create a context for the annual review process which supports ongoing processes. Okay. So the quick support for this statement is a lot of times the annual review process can seem a bit mindless and robotic. We hope not to continue this if this is the way some of you feel. If you don't, that's wonderful. But we hope to create a context where you can support that APR, that annual performance review, and say, okay, we're kicking off this for this reason. This is the reason for this feedback, and this is something we can dig our heels into. Okay, and then useful feedback for employees. Okay, and then the last, how can you help Summit to achieve greater employee success? All right, I think you all can answer that question for yourselves. After this session, after we log off here, maybe take some notes for yourself. Please send us any feedback. So you can send it to Kasha, you can send it to myself, and we can throw it in with our notes and make sure that it is provided with our feedback, again, anonymously. We just want to make sure that you folks feel like you are helping change, and therefore we have change which is it's guided, and it's not, sorry, dog in the background. It's not for change sake. Okay. All right, folks, finally, questions. Again, I know we are way over. Does anybody have any immediate feedback, any immediate questions, any last statements to be made? Okay. I think we're going to close out now. I thank you again so much for your time. Thanks for your dedication. You guys staying over. Please know that Kasha and I are here to support you. So please contact us if you have anything. Sorry, if there is anything that you feel is that you need last minute questions or additions. Okay, Kasha?
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right.
You guys
Bye-bye.
have
Yep.
bye-bye. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all.